I am one of the lucky few non-speaking autistics who have been taught to type.
Elizabeth Bonker gained global attention after her 2022 commencement speech at Rollins College. Like a third of those who have autism, Bonker is a non-speaker. When she was 5, she learned how to spell using a letterboard. Now 28, she's able to type with a communication partner. Today, it's her mom, Virginia, who's reading aloud what Bonker typed.
Why do you need a communication partner?
Elizabeth typed, non-speakers have whole body apraxia, a motor disorder. A communication partner helps us overcome our apraxia with their calm presence.
Bonker is now using her words to advocate for the Communication Bill of Rights in New York.
How would this bill help non-speakers?
The New York bill would allow non-speakers to communicate in the manner that works best. This is a basic human right.
The bill was introduced in the New York Assembly by Angelo Santa Barbara in 2025 to allow non-speakers to use the communication methods that work best for them, whether they're in a group home, school, or any public setting. It would also prevent non-speakers from being denied funding or access to that method.
People should not lose access to their communication device. Also, that it should be their choice, what they want to use.
State Senator and Disabilities Committee Chair Patricia Fahy co-sponsored the bill, putting it on track to pass this summer. But in March, Fahy amended the bill to exclude spelling and typing with a communication partner, aligning with guidance from the Office for People with Developmental Disabilities, or OPWDD. A surprise move that shocked many in the non-speaking community, who say the agency charged with protecting them is doing the opposite.
Senator Fahy asked to sponsor our bill, and then the state agency turned her against us.
Bonker and other advocates say they believe Fahy flipped after being lobbied. An NBC review found Fahy received thousands of dollars in campaign contributions from organizations that advocates say are aligned with OPWDD. The agency denies that claim. But in this Facebook post, one donor, the New York Speech Language Hearing Association, thanks members for supporting the amendment.
Does that make you angry?
Angry and energized to fight the ableism that exists in state agencies.
The agency is choosing to silence people rather than give them an opportunity to speak.
OPWDD declined to be interviewed, but in a statement said in part it is deeply committed to protecting the civil rights of people with disabilities, including the right to autonomously communicate. The agency supports alternative communication methods, including the independent use of letterboards and typing.
They say that their concern is over the communication partner and you're unconsciously somehow influencing the communication.
They're completely misapplying that principle. It has nothing to do with being a communication partner.
What do you say to people who are concerned that non-speakers may be taken advantage of or abused?
The word validated is an ableist construct. All communication should be accepted.
Fahy declined to be interviewed and did not respond to our questions about the donations.
What do you think of these contributions? Do you think they may have influenced Senator Fahy?
Here's what I'm going to say. We had a bill in the Assembly that matched the bill in the Senate, and everybody's thinking was, okay, this bill's going to pass. Instead, what we saw is some drastic amendments were made, and this bill went entirely in a different direction.
Leaving the bill in limbo, but advocates vow not to be silenced, promising to reintroduce the bill with a new sponsor in January. Vicki Nguyen, NBC News.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.